Leicester's season is well and truly underway, and so today I want to give you my first impressions and thoughts on our new manager, Marti Cifuentes, as well as our season so far and how I think we're going to do this season. I get asked all the time when we're streaming, how do I think we're going to do? Are we going to get promoted this season? Blah, blah, blah. So today, hopefully, I can answer all of those questions. So let's start off by having a look at the season so far. Well, if we go to our fixtures, let's see how we have done. We have had a few games in pre-season where some results were better than others. We lost to Cologne pretty badly, but then we beat Fiorentina. That was pretty good. Going to the season with a positive mindset under a new manager after it felt like it was taking ages for things to get sorted. And then we kicked off the season with a big win against Chef Wednesday. Is that really that impressive, though? No. Chef Wednesday in the first half were probably the better team. I mean, if we look at the stats and we go first half, that does actually surprise me a bit. They do have a very slightly higher XG. It felt like they were the better team, and then in the second half we absolutely dominated. However, that was helped by the fact they went down to 10 men. So this game was against a team that could barely field a senior squad. The turmoil at this club, they were basically the best opponents you could have day one of the season. And yet we made it look hard against them. Our lineup for our first game, you got Stolarczyk, who is our new number one, now that Hermansson has left the club. James Justin, who has since left. Akoli, Vestergaard, Luke Thomas. This combination of Samare and Skip in midfield, Mavididi, Fatawu, Belal El Kanous, and Jordan Ayew. Ole, ole. So, this is pretty much how our formation and lineup has been looking in each game this season. And some of the players have been good, some of them have been very disappointing. Belal getting 2 assists in this game, both from set pieces to get these goals in order to get us to win this game, was really, really good. Jordan Ayew was just not really a number 9. Great at holding up the ball and keeping hold of it and then laying other people off, but as a number 9, he's not there in the box. You need someone to actually be finishing your chances. If you're holding up the ball, laying it off to Fatawu, and then he crosses it in, but there's no one there because your striker's the one holding it up, doesn't make much sense. He is much more suited in either a 2 up top, where he's like the false 9 that drops a little bit deeper, the Nkunku, the Havertz role, something like that, the Shinji Okazaki role, if you will, or even as a number 10. Samare and Skip so far this season have not worked together. I think Samare gets overhated by our fan base when a lot of the time he doesn't do much wrong, but that doesn't mean that he does a lot right. He basically just keeps things ticking without doing anything spectacular a lot of the time. And for someone that has shown glimpses of being able to be so much better, that's really disappointing. Whereas Skip, I couldn't really tell you what Skip is supposed to bring to the team, because we signed him for 20 mil last summer. One of the worst Premier League signings for the money of all time, because he barely played. He's basically another Harry Winks. And he got subbed off in this first game of the season for Winks, who came on and was significantly better. I believe he got the man of the match on Sky, despite only playing one half of football, and Belal getting both assists. So it says a lot about how that changed our midfield in this game. But he doesn't really do much. One thing I will say that does go in his favour, that you won't see on these kind of stats, the amount of times that he will make a run, for example, here, right? In, behind the line of midfield, and between the lines of defence and midfield, potentially even getting in between the centre-back and full-back, making a really, really good run, but he's just ignored. If you actually gave the ball to him in those positions, maybe we'd see a different side of Skip, which we aren't right now, but for whatever reason, they just don't pass to him there. And it's actually really infuriating, because you're getting frustrated at the guy for not doing much, but then when he's getting in positions to do something, he doesn't get the chance to. And so therefore, on his stats, for example, in this game, they'll look horrible, like in terms of his number of touches and stuff like that. But he picked up great positions. So, frustrating as it is. Marti Cifuentes, then. Let's have a little chat about him. We obviously got him from QPR. He paid, like part of his own release clause, to join us. Considering the position that our club is in with financial issues and everything like that, you have to rate it. You cannot fault the commitment and the want to have this job and this opportunity to manage us. And he's already trying to link with like fans, the club, the city and everything like that. Something that Steve Cooper actually tried to do and was successful in a sense in terms of trying to get that connection. He actually organised a Q&A with fans when he first joined, which was really nice. You don't really see those kind of things. My dad actually managed to go and to that and said that it was a really, really good event. Marty, on the other hand, has been looking around the city and everything like this, doing videos with the club of him going around to different landmarks and all of that stuff. But also, after our recent game, dedicating the result to the Birch, turning 80, a club icon. Talking about the connection between knowing what the fans want from the style of football and what we're trying to give them, and everyone's in it together kind of mentality and all of those things. He gets it, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean that that's enough. As I said, Cooper sort of got that. And whilst he didn't get some of that reciprocated from some of the fans due to the sort of nature of the appointment after having Enzo and his style of play and everything beforehand, Marty seems to understand it. So what is his style of play? Well, it is a little bit Maresca-esque. What we do see, if we go back to the lineup for this first game here, is you see these fullbacks both getting into advanced positions. Like, if Luke Thomas goes forward, he ends up in like this hole here between this triangle. And another thing that we also see is someone like El Canous dropping down with Thomas to pick up the ball from deep and then try and fizz it into him, which is something that we didn't really see under Maresca. We did see the fullback tuck inside and become this inverted fullback role that everyone knows nowadays, and Ricardo Pereira fit that perfectly. But that's not exactly what we're seeing. Sometimes we do. Like, there were times in this first game of the season where Skip and JJ switched, and you'd have Skip down in the right side and Justin going into the middle. I don't mind it as a tactic because rotating players and slightly confusing the opposition as to who are they supposed to pick up here. It's normally this guy, but now he's over there, and now this guy's here. Do I go with my original man? Do I stick with this guy? What do I do? Those kind of things, fluidity, are always really, really good. I just don't think that these are the right players to do it with. Once Ricardo Pereira is fit, you could obviously have him doing that role because he is one of the best on-the-ball players at the club, and so that will fit him significantly better. He was the inverted fullback in the Enzo season. It all makes sense, right? But outside of that, we don't have pace at the back. Vestergaard's been caught out numerous times already this season. On the ball, he's amazing. But we're playing this sort of like higher line, more aggressive press than we have done in some of the previous seasons. And so if someone breaks quickly, you're up against one of the slowest players in the league. So it's a bit of a problem, to be honest with you. And then we have our problem of, again, the striker situation where Ayew is starting, but he's just not a number 9. He slows down the play a lot. He's really, really good at holding the ball up. If you could bring him on when you're winning for the last 15, 20 minutes, he'd be amazing. But that isn't the case. He's being used from the beginning and slowing things down. So let's look at some of the other results. Obviously, we get off to a win to kick things off. That's great. Then we progress to the cup game, the EFL Cup, where we played against Huddersfield, who are in League One this season, and both teams rotated in this one. A lot of Huddersfield fans will tell you how many players they changed, and we, as you can see from this, also changed a fair few players. So Nelson and Fast came in, Chowdhury, captain at right back. Disgraceful, but it is what it is. Alves, McAteer, Monga, and Daka. So we've changed the majority of our team. I was actually a bit surprised to see Stelacic play instead of Begovic here. This game was just poor. Really poor. Hamza Chowdhury scored an absolute worldie, but then proceeded to be Hamza Chowdhury and give away a penalty like 5 minutes later. Just an absolutely dreadful challenge, flying in for no reason because that's what he does. And then a combination of Chowdhury and Booba just backing off and off and off and off and not pressing the guy. Was it Ashia who scored that one? Actually was a really, really good finish, but it was on this left wing and he just kept dribbling forward and they just didn't go out to him, and then he curls it top corner. We then go out on penalties, and it's just dreadful. The cups don't really matter, I would say. They do bring in some extra money the further you get, which, considering our PSR situation and everything like that over the last couple of years, like we've been in financial turmoil, which is why we just aren't able to make the signings that we want to make. It's why we've got a points deduction coming at some point this season. We don't know exactly when, we don't know how many, but the expectation is it's going to be at least 9 points. And there's a world where it could happen when we get into the new year rather than at the start of the season. So you want to get off to a really, really good start ahead of that. So the cups don't matter as much because obviously the main aim is promotion back to the Premier League. But then you follow that up with Preston. Now, I went to Preston. You can watch the vlog if you want to check that out. We lost 2-1 here, and just so many questions. For the first goal in this game, let's first look at the lineup. So, we're basically back to what we started the first game of the season, the win against Sheff Wednesday with. However, this time, Harry Winks started instead of Skip, because Winks also played the cup game and was good, but he came into this game and pretty much stunk the place out. He wasn't any better than Skip when he started. He also stormed off down the tunnel at the end of the game without appreciating the away fans. So, cheers for that one, Harry. But the rest is the same. The first goal, though, Divine, 7 minutes in. Stelacic, I simply don't know what he's doing. I really don't know what he sprints out to around where the mouse is here. When we've got like 3 defenders getting back because of a long ball down the line. Maybe even further out than this. And the guy just goes round him and puts it in. It was one of the worst goalkeeper decisions I've ever seen live. I think the only one that comes close to it that I can think of off the top of my head, Pepe Reina, I think he went to Aston Villa a few years ago and did something similar. Came out way off his line and we just put it in easily. This was awful and is purely down to Stelacic, and that is, in the first 10 minutes, gets us off to a horrible start. The stats, though, are just not going to make for good viewing. 0.27 XG in the first half. Yes, we have accurate passes, great, but not doing anything with it. No shots on target, no big chances in the first half. Second half, slightly better. We bring on Jeremy Monga in... When does he come on? The 57th minute. Same with Fast. Daka came on at half-time. And he gets a goal. A really nice goal. His first goal and the youngest player in Championship history to have scored. So that's fantastic. Positive. But then we get done by a counter-attack in the 85th minute, and it just highlights the lack of pace that we have. A Coley out on the right-hand side, not closing him down enough. And then Vestergaard and Chowdhury tracking back, but of course Vestergaard is tracking back at the pace of a snail. And so the ball just gets whipped across and we concede. Nothing Stolarczyk can do about that one, to be fair to him. But it highlights the problem that I was talking about before, where if we get caught on the counter, this man is the slowest player I've ever seen. And it's a major problem. It really, really is. And I don't think you can stick with it. Also, very quickly, here is a screenshot of where Stolarczyk ran out to as part of the official highlights. The ball was played down the line. As you can see, we've got 3 players, even 3.5, getting back here. And Stolarczyk, for some reason, decided to sprint out to the corner of the box. He goes round him and puts it in. Baffling. But so we need to bounce back. And how do we do that? Well, we go away to Charlton and we pick up a 1-0 win. But look at the momentum graph. Look at the stats. Nothing is in our favour here whatsoever. Whether you go first half or second half, especially second half. How we didn't concede, genuinely could not tell you, really. If we look at the lineup, what changed this time? Well, Skips back in. You had Page and Monga start instead of El Canouse because he was most likely leaving to Palace. That looks like it's fallen through, though, so maybe he's back. And Monga for Mavididi because he picked up a slight knock. Chowdhury in for JJ because he was finalising his move to Leeds. So, this is what we've got. Fatawu gets a 7.5 in this game. Buba with an 8.3. Hamza, 7.9. But Stolarczyk with the 8.7. This is the reason we did not lose this game. Hamza, good game. Buba, much better game. Skip, anonymous. Page struggled. Are you non-existent? Fatawu scores an absolute worldie. Cuts in off the right-hand side and curls it top bins. It's one of the goals of the weekend. Will probably be one of our goals of the season. Stolarczyk made at least 2 unbelievable saves. Some of you may have seen the one with the angle from behind the guy that's shooting. And the way that he gets across and tips it over the bar is so impressive. As a shot stopper, Stolarczyk is great. The other side of his game, or the rest of his game, that's where he needs to improve. Hopefully he will do over time. But again, the stats, just dreadful. We had 2 shots on target the whole game. One of them went in. We can have passes, we can have possession, all of this stuff, but it doesn't really matter. The XG way against us. And we've basically rode our luck in this game in order to win it. So where does that put us in the league at this stage of the season? After 3 games, we are in 7th place. We've got Birmingham up next, who have looked good in their first few games. We play against them on Friday night, I believe, at home. I'm not confident. They've been pretty good. As you can see, they are 5th in the league right here. With a draw against Ipswich being the only time that they've dropped points so far. Beating Oxford and Blackburn. Although, in the Oxford game, I believe they only had 1 shot on target and they scored it. So, if we can keep them to that, that'd be pretty good. But 7th place, like all things considered, where we've not really played well in any of our games, you can't be upset at that. But there's only so long that you can ride that wave of, yeah, we didn't play well, but we got a result. Sooner or later, that's just going to hurt you continuously. And you're not going to get that luck. You're not going to score the Fatawu worldies and stuff like that. And you're going to lose these games. Just like we lost against Preston, it was fully deserved. So, 7th is fine, okay? We're 3 points off of automatic promotion as it stands. Of course, in reality, we're probably on -3 points. That is, sadly, how we have to look at it. And so, Sheffield United have lost all 3, which is crazy. So, in reality, after a couple more games, we'd probably be around here, which is not great. Our aim this season is playoffs. It's not automatic. We're not going to be good enough, and that 9+ point deduction is simply going to cripple us in terms of going for that. It's going to be way too much of a hindrance. So we'll have to try and aim for playoffs and see how that goes. Another big thing to do with us right now is transfers. So, players in. Begovic. That's it. A free agent second goalie. This is a problem. Let's look at our players out. James Justin has gone to Leeds for 10 mil. Casey McAteer for 10-ish mil. This is 8 mil rising to 10 mil with add-ons. Casey is 10 plus add-ons. Mads went for 18 mil to West Ham. Undidi's gone for 6 or 7 mil to Besiktas. Connor Cody's gone to Wrexham for, I believe, 1 mil when we thought he was going to leave for free. And then we've had a few other players leave for free as well. So we've brought in a lot of money, and there is now also talk of Christiansen going to Forest. Don't know what kind of fee that would take for him to go. But it looked like we were also going to be losing El Canous to Crystal Palace. But now they've gone and signed, I think his name is Pico, instead for a slightly smaller fee. And that move has collapsed. That doesn't mean that he isn't going to leave. Leeds and Spurs have shown interest in him. He could still move to a Premier League team by the end of the window. But, most importantly, due to these sales, we no longer need to sell Bilal to satisfy PSR. So the odds of us keeping him, we can now ask for a higher fee than we were previously going to be able to, because we don't need to sell him. So that's amazing for us. Absolutely amazing. Especially with some other sales potentially happening with the likes of Christiansen, raising even more funds. But we need to sign some players. We desperately do. Because, once again, if we go and look at the team that started this Charlton game, Fars is most likely going to leave as well. He's been linked with Besiktas. So, there's a world where Okoli and Vestergaard start a chunk of our games this season. I would like to see Ben Nelson really come through this season and maybe start with Okoli. There's some tenuous links with Okoli leaving to AC Milan, but it would be for like 20 mil, so that'd be huge. But it's a fire sale right now, and we need to start to put it out or start to alleviate that with some signings. Hamza can't be starting at right back for the whole season. We've got Koulibaly. When Ricardo is fit, he should be starting. The midfielders are a bit of a problem because we've got Skip, Winks, Samare. Winks is linked away. Samare's been linked away. We have some youngsters that can play there with the likes of Braybrook, but they're not getting the minutes right now. Golding as well can play in midfield, but he's playing for the under-21s. We've lost Casey, but we still have enough in these positions, especially if El Canous stays. But striker. We have Daka. Jake Evans is our youngster that I thought would potentially get promoted up a bit more this season, but that hasn't happened yet. He's getting more minutes for under-21s and stuff like that before being thrust into the senior squad full-time, basically. Jordan Ayew cannot continue to start up front. Daka gets over-hated by our fan base. He actually, a lot of our fans moan about players not putting in an effort. Daka puts in a shift every single time he pulls on the shirt. His defensive contributions are higher than most of these guys, and he will try as hard as he possibly can. He needs to get his shooting boots on, yes. But when you talk about effort and desire, he has more of it than a lot of these players. And it's unfair that Ayew starts ahead of him when he offers so little as a striker. It's frustrating. And as you saw, Ricardo came on for a few minutes at the end of the last game. So hopefully that means he's going to be nearly available to start ahead of Chowdhury. I think what we might do is we might play him for like the second half against Birmingham, start Hamza in front of him. We're not really linked with anybody. There's been a few tenuous links from non-reputable journalists. None of the like tier 1 or even 2 journalists, when it comes to us, have linked us with any players. Sky linked us with Tengs, I think was his name, Frengs, something like that, from Feyenoord. But he's going to Pisa. There's a little link right now with a striker, I think from Ligue 1, but again, not from any reputable sources. So right now, it still feels like we're selling before buying, and hopefully we're just working on some deals on incomings under the radar, especially striker. If we got that position sorted, there is a world where we could push for playoffs, because I like Cifuentes. I like how we play. Individual performances have just not been good enough to justify the play style for some of these players, especially in midfield. Like, this is such a big area when you're playing in the way that we want to. You have to trust your teammates. You have to give them the ball in tight spaces and trust that they are going to be able to make something happen with it. But we don't do that. We play it safe. You'll have the ball go from Thomas to Samare here, and instead of turning and fizzing it into Page or Monga, he'll just immediately pass it straight back to Thomas without even looking over his shoulder to see whether a pass forward option is available. It's frustrating. And it's where you would love to have some of the players we've had in the past. Tielemans in this kind of formation and setup would be the dream. He'd get it on the half turn and he would get it forward. Break that line, suddenly we're away. We don't have that right now. So I wouldn't mind either promoting someone from the youth that is more of that ilk, or getting a different midfielder in. We'll see how things go, but these are just my first thoughts on everything so far. I like Marti. I like the job that he's doing in terms of trying to connect with the fan base and club and city. And his style of play is fine. We just need slightly different personnel to execute it properly, in my opinion. In terms of the players, I mean, some of them need to step up, really. There's not really been many standout performers so far. Fatawu tries his hardest every single game. Against someone like Preston, he struggled. He tried to beat a man so many times and just couldn't. But he keeps trying. He's not one of those that fails and then that's it for the rest of the game. He has no confidence. He'll keep trying. And you then smashed it against Charlton. So you have to rate the determination to keep going. But others are just not performing at the right level so far. So my predictions for us this season, I think playoffs, if we make the signings that we need to do, could be realistic. I don't think that automatic promotion is realistic whatsoever. Even without the points deduction, maybe not. But with that, especially if it is 9+ points, I just don't see a world where we can claw that much back. It's too much. So I'm hoping for playoffs this year. I'm hoping that we can go and sign a striker in this last week of the window. And I'll probably give my thoughts on our transfer window in a separate video once it is closed. Hopefully there's a lot more business happening between now and then. But those are my initial thoughts on us this season, on my predictions for the rest of the season. Let me know yours in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time in a bit.